Is today here on eNCA DSTV channel 403. A very good afternoon. Happy Friday. My name is William. Last name Lahong. We get straight to our top story at the moment. The acting public protector has found President Cyril Ramaphosa did not violate the ethics code in his dealings at his Phala Phala farm. Kholeka Gcaleka says the president did not expose himself to any risk of a conflict between his constitutional duties and obligations and his private interests. To that end, Ramaphosa was accused of a cover-up regarding the burglary and theft of money from his Limpopo farm in 2020. Now, if you remember, our reporter Moloko Moloto is standing by for us, and he has been following these developments. A very good afternoon, Moloko Moloto. Let's talk about this. Perhaps just bring us in where we are at the moment in as far as reaction to the public protector's report is concerned.
Good afternoon, Wara William Lahong. Well, the President, Cyril Ramaphosa, can breathe a sigh of relief, at least for now, because he's been cleared of any wrongdoing by the public protector or the Office of the Public Protector, Advocate Gcaleka, who is the acting public protector. She's found that the President has not abused state resources by deploying the members of the police's Presidential Protection Services unit to go and investigate the alleged theft, or the theft, because at least it's confirmed that theft took place at his farm. But also, Advocate Kholeka Gcaleka found that the allegation that the president received paid work outside his salary as head of state could not be substantiated. In other words, the president has been cleared completely with regard to the allegations or the claims that had been leveled against him by those who laid formal complaints with the Office of the Public Protector. However, the other institutions such as SARS, the South African Reserve Bank, the Police's Directorate for Priority Crime Investigations are still investigating many other aspects which the public protector says she did not have the mandate to investigate. For instance, the issue of whether the president violated the PRECA Act by not reporting that particular theft of the money. She is saying that she doesn't have authority to investigate where money belongs to an individual, but also the issue of declaration. She says SARS as well as the South African Reserve Bank are better positioned to investigate. Now, obviously, those who laid the complaint, specifically John Steenhuisen, who is the leader of the Democratic Alliance, who, along with the leader of the ATM, laid formal complaints with regard to the Executive Members Ethics Act, which compels the public protector to investigate. In other words, in terms of that law, she doesn't have a choice. But once a complaint is laid with regard to that law, she must investigate. The DA's leader is certainly not happy. The statement that he issued a short while ago, he's basically saying that this report by Advocate Gcaleka is just whitewashing what has happened there by Phala Phala, going on to say that Gcaleka is actually eyeing to occupy this position permanently as the public protector of South Africa, and what she was doing here essentially was just a job interview, essentially saying that she is trying to impress those who ought to appoint the next public protector. But also the other parties as well are weighing in, saying that, for instance, the National Freedom Party is saying that the evidence that was collated during this investigation must be made public so that people can satisfy themselves.
Moloko, obviously the conversation around this report is multi-layered. You've just mentioned what John Steenhuisen's reaction has been to the report itself. Let's talk about the other opposition parties who are very vocal about the Phala Phala farm saga. Do we have any reaction from them? We know they possibly aren't happy with the outcome of the Public Protector's report.
Well, the other parties certainly, particularly those who openly opposed or who openly wanted accountability here are certainly not going to leave this matter lying down. We know that, for instance, the parliamentary panel that was appointed by Speaker of Parliament to investigate this already found that the President has a case to answer to. And that particular panel of inquiry was chaired by none other than the former Chief Justice of the Republic of South Africa, Sandile Ngcobo, and Judge Thokozile Masipa, who is also a judge. And they have already made it clear that they believe the President has a case to answer to. And we have seen what transpired in Parliament when members of the African National Congress, the governing party, used their majority in Parliament to stop the process of further investigating the President in this regard. Perhaps from the political party's point of view, one can always say that this matter really is as good as buried, particularly with regard to Parliament, for as long as this particular report by the public protector stands, notwithstanding the other outstanding reports by the other institutions. Now, the expectation is that they are all going to be coming after the acting public protector. But another interesting point here, William, is that the public protector does say that she investigated going further to even check the books, the financial register, that the President ought to divulge his public interest and whether he's got remunerative work as well. That particular register is with the Secretary of Cabinet, and members of Cabinet, including the President as chairperson of Cabinet, must declare. Now, what is interesting here is that there's no dispute that the President is the sole director of the company called Ndabanyoni. This is a close cooperation company that is trading there by Phala Phala. And this is the same company that obviously would have received those multi-millions of rand that are a point of contention here. Now, the question is, if the President's company, where he is the sole director, has received this money, does the President not have an obligation to divulge that his company has received this money? And as a result, the public ought to know. Now, the Office of the Public Protector is arguing that that particular company, as a close cooperation, is a stand-alone legal personality, meaning it is separate from the President, essentially trying to say that the President did not get that money into his personal bank account, and as a result, or he was not paid because he is not an employee, he is just a director, and as a result, they don't believe that he received a remunerative work there. But let's listen to Acting Public Protector Kholeka Gcaleka as she was just outlining some of the findings here today.
Considering the evidence in its entirety and the application of the law, there is no basis to exalt such deliberations to a degree where it can be held that there existed a real or potential conflict of interest on the part of the President regarding his duty as the head of cabinet and his interest in the game cattle farming at Palapala farm in violation of the code. Thus, no evidence could be found to underpin a finding or a conclusion that the President's comments or utterances in the regard were a continuous act to be considered or construed as active involvement in the business or paid work. Aggregated against the standard imposed by the Executive Ethics Code, it is found that there is no basis upon which to conclude that the President contravened Clause 2.1b, D, Clause 2.3d, F and G of the Executive Ethics Code, including the period following the alleged theft of the US dollars that took place on or about 9 February 2020 from his private house at Phala Phala farm in Waterberg, Limpopo. Therefore, the evidence does not support the allegation that the President's financial interest in game or cattle farming at Phala Phala farm exposes him to any situation involving the risk of a conflict between his official responsibilities and his private interests.
Now, Moloko, before I let you go, have we heard anything from the President's office in as far as the reaction to the Acting Public Protector's report is concerned?
Not to my understanding, William. Of course, the expectation is that the president will react, and certainly he's going to welcome this particular report by the acting public protector. However, there are still a lot of questions that ought to be answered. One of them, William, is that the public protector does indicate that at some point shortly after that particular theft, and this was at the height of the COVID-19 restrictions, the advisor to the president, Mr. President Gcaleka, traveled along with Major General Wally Rood, who is the head of the Presidential Protection Services Unit. They utilized the resources of the state, and President Gcaleka was not allowed, he's actually not entitled to utilize the SAPS services when he went on that particular trip to Namibia, where apparently some of the people who stole the money allegedly were at. And now that particular trip was authorized by former National Police Commissioner General Kholeka Gcaleka, but the public protector is questioning that to say the fact that they went there, that on its own, although she is saying that they did not necessarily specifically say this is what we were going to do, except to say that President Gcaleka was there to represent the president about issues of national security involving another country. Nothing beyond that. So she is, on the other hand, found that Wally Rood used the state resources. Essentially, she found him guilty of maladministration. But on the other hand, she hasn't been able to ask specifically from the presidency, from the president, to say, can you confirm if on record, if indeed you had sent President Gcaleka to do state work there, whereas there's this allegation that President Gcaleka was part of this people, the police, to go there and to do the investigation clandestinely, because that is what she says, that that particular investigation by the police's protection, presidential protection services, was certainly not authorized. The investigation should have been done by a different unit of the police. So she finds it problematic there. However, she's saying she takes the word of President Gcaleka and the word of the retired National Police Commissioner that these two were out there to on a trip to investigate issues of national security involving another country. No details around that. But of course, the president, as I said, he has been cleared. We're just waiting to hear whether other institutions, the Police's Directorate for Priority Crime Investigation, will find that he violated, for instance, the PRECA. What will the SARS say? What will the South African Reserve Bank say with regard to the money in foreign currency that apparently or allegedly has not been declared upon its arrival in South Africa?
And all of these very pertinent questions, Moloko Moloto, live to us this afternoon. Thank you so much for your time. Just unpacking the acting public protector's report. A lot for you to question, think and act on, and we'll continue to bring you more reaction around this saga.